Samsung will definitely launch a 55-inch and a 65-inch OLED TV next year, but there remain so many unknowns. Will these Samsung OLED TVs be 4K or 8K? And how will the company address the issue of OLED burn-in? In this video, I'm going to tackle the 4 main questions surrounding the launch of Samsung OLED TVs in 2022. Keep watching. Hello everyone, Vincent from HDTVtest here. Earlier this week, a news report has surfaced from South Korea stating that Samsung is definitely going to launch a 55-inch and also a 65-inch OLED TV during the first half of 2022. And in fact, these new Samsung OLED TVs may even make an appearance at CES 2022, depending on whether the in-person event is still going to go ahead given the ever-changing situation about the pandemic. And the way Samsung is going to position these new OLED TVs is to put them in between the top-tier micro LED, and then next will come these Samsung OLEDs, and these Samsung OLEDs will sit above the Neo QLED televisions, presumably the 8K models. So basically, these OLED TVs will slot between the micro LED and also the Neo QLED TVs, and I think it is always an enviable position to find yourself getting the opportunity to slot things in, just like how I managed to slip some innuendos into my videos from time to time. But let's talk about a few questions I have on my mind regarding the launch of Samsung's 2022 OLED TVs. And the first question is whether these TVs will be using WRGB OLED panels from LG Display, or they will be using the Quantum Dot OLED or QD OLED panels from Samsung Display, which is another subsidiary of the whole Samsung conglomerate. And I think there is no doubt whatsoever now that these 55-inch and also 65-inch OLED TVs will be coming from Samsung Display, and they will be the QD OLED or Quantum Dot OLED. The reason is because, if they are only limiting themselves to 55-inch and 65-inch models, that means they are trying to keep their yield high to make sure that, they have a viable commercial product. Later on, the company is planning to launch 70-inch OLED models, and we know that certainly from the WRGB LG Display side of things, they currently don't have a 70-inch panel available to sell to Samsung. So I'm pretty certain that these new 55-inch and also 65-inch OLED TVs from Samsung will be using the Quantum Dot OLED or QD OLED technology from Samsung Display. And obviously, there are other indicators that point to the progress of QD OLED as well. For example, KB Securities in South Korea, a researcher has mentioned that Samsung Display actually, pushed forward the mass production of the QD OLED from the 4th quarter of this year to the 3rd quarter of this year in anticipation of the demand from Samsung Electronics in the year 2022. So that is certainly a good sign that, the project is moving forward. And next year, we will certainly see a 55-inch and also a 65-inch QD-based OLED TV from Samsung Electronics during the first half of 2022. Obviously, the timeline may slip, but, we certainly hope at this moment in time that there is nothing stopping the company from launching these new OLED TVs next year. And I think, another thing to try to point out as to the new Samsung OLED TVs will be using the QD OLED technology rather than LG's WRGB OLED technology is that, if you are going to try and place these new Samsung OLED TVs between the top-tier micro LED, which is supremely expensive, currently it is probably at least 6 figures, maybe you can get the cost lower sometime next year, but still, it is extremely expensive. So you're going to try and place a product between the very expensive micro LED and then with the 8K Neo QLEDs or 4K Neo QLEDs, they are probably on price parity with high-end OLED TVs that use WRGB OLED panels from LG Display. So if you are going to price them even higher, it just doesn't make sense to be using LG's WRGB OLED panels whose price, have come down over the years and it's fairly affordable really. So those are the reasons why I think that these new Samsung OLED TVs will definitely be using Quantum Dot technology. The next question on my mind is whether these new Samsung OLED TVs will be using 4K or 8K resolution. And in my mind, if you're going to be pricing a product to be higher than what LG Display's WRGB panels go for, it has to be 8K resolution. Although I have been wrong before, because at the larger screen size, let's say the top tier micro LED, some of the smaller screen size are still 4K in resolution, so they are not even actually achieving 8K yet. But I think let's say if you really want to price a 55-inch or a 65-inch Samsung OLED TV to be more expensive than an LG or Sony 4K OLED TV, you have to justify the increase in cost and also the upcharge in price premium. And one easy way is certainly 8K resolution. And Samsung Display's QD OLED technology has an advantage in that sense because it uses top emission technology, and currently LG Display's WRGB OLED technology is still bottom emission. What this means is that it is easier for Samsung Display to pack all these pixels into a smaller screen size to achieve 8K resolution at 55-inch and 65-inch sizes, whereas with LG Display's WRGB OLED technology, currently their 8K panels are limited to 77 inches and above because using bottom emission, they just cannot have the pixel aperture ratio, and also the pixel pitch needs to be this wide to be able to pack this much density of pixels into a smaller screen size. So that is the reason why I think these 55-inch and 65-inch models from Samsung Electronics next year will be 8K to justify the price premium, even though in theory 8K resolution is probably not going to be of much use for the common consumer in the domestic environment. And in the past, clearly Samsung has attacked OLED TVs, based on the propensity towards burn-in. And one question on my mind is how will Samsung now reconcile the launch of their OLED TVs with the fact that they have conducted multiple campaigns in the past attacking OLED TVs, primarily from LG, due to the risk of permanent screen burn or burn-in. But I genuinely think it is not that difficult to justify, this move at all. Let's say if I was a Samsung spokesperson launching these new OLED TVs at a press conference. So let me put on my mask. 안녕하세요. So today we are at the launch of our new Samsung OLED TVs, and I think some of you will ask why are we suddenly launching OLED TVs when we have been attacking OLED TVs in the past. We said that OLED TVs are actually prone to burn-in. Well, the fact is very simple. We, Samsung as a company, we are actually not anti-OLED per se. Let's be honest here. We have multiple OLED products in our portfolio. We have the Samsung phones with OLED technology, the Samsung Galaxy phones. We have the Samsung tablets with OLED technology, and we have never been resistant to OLED technology. But we just feel that the timing wasn't right, before, when we had to purchase OLED panels from a third party with no guarantee of the success and also the viability long-term of the product. So currently we have discovered a way to make OLED work, just like how it has worked on our phones and our tablets. And so that's why we feel the time is right for us to embrace OLED technology with its self-emissive capabilities to generate true blacks and also, vibrant colors, really wide viewing angles, just like what we have found on our phones and our tablets. We're just expanding our expertise to a large screen TV. And, you can be reassured that we will stand by our product, and it will be, the best product that you can buy OLED TV wise on the market. And so now I will take some questions. What's that? Dolby Vision? 제발 저리가. 감사합니다. So as you can see, I think you can spin it however way. I should be a marketer myself, but I think I am always excited about a new self-emissive display entering the market regardless of whether they are using WRGB OLED technology or using quantum dot based technology from Samsung display. And obviously another question that I have on my mind is whether these new Samsung OLED TVs will be using Dolby Vision technology. And I think Samsung is still going to be resistant to Dolby Vision, so I don't think they will have Dolby Vision capabilities on board. But I think in the past, Samsung has always justified their resistance towards Dolby Vision because their Samsung Neo QLEDs are capable of high peak brightness, and with a higher peak brightness you don't really need dynamic metadata to help in terms of the tone mapping. But with these Samsung OLED TVs, I'm not entirely sure what their peak brightness will be, but I genuinely will be very surprised if they even come close to the peak brightness that these Neo QLED LED LCD televisions are capable of. So from that point of view, I am going to be quite interested to see whether Samsung will finally embrace Dolby Vision technology. My bet is on no, but who knows, maybe they feel that dynamic metadata from Dolby Vision may obviously help these OLED TVs. But again, another way of looking at it is that Samsung believes in their own HDR10 Plus technology, which also utilizes dynamic metadata only in the form of an open source format, compared with Dolby Vision's license-based proprietary technology. But still, we have to accept the fact that there are so many content out there on the market that are based on Dolby Vision. Let's say most of the key streaming providers, Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, they are all using Dolby Vision technology. And I think that among consumers, even if Dolby Vision is genuinely not helpful on a high need display, I think it is sort of becoming a checkbox exercise now. So I think those are just some questions on my mind, besides some other questions relating to various OLED attributes. I just feel like Jeremy Renner in Arrival, he wanted to ask the aliens so many questions, and I have so many questions about Samsung's upcoming 2022 OLED TVs. How will it come up from black? How's the near black uniformity? How is the motion and various other things? But I'm genuinely excited about another self-emissive display coming onto the market, which is top emission, which is true RGB in terms of the subpixel structure. And hopefully the price won't be too high. But I think, by positioning it between the really expensive, extortionately expensive micro LED and also the not so cheap Neo QLED, especially the 8K models, I think, let's brace ourselves for, not a very affordable price. But I think, any entry into the self-emissive display market is always welcome in my book. If you'd like to watch more videos on next-gen display technologies, please click here for our playlist, and I will see you in the next video.